we were taking the technical and theoretical aspects of art, and by theoretical, it was much a surprise of how much the culture is based on the art, and the art is based on the culture. It supports one another, and it's the same thing, but there are different aspects because you can differentiate both. So by this case, the theoretical aspect of art I became very interested in. At the same time, we grew in the technical aspects of art, such as painting and drawing and sculpture and graphic arts, and I became this sort of exponent of producing these techniques on my own. But on the same aspect, on the same level, I was very interested in the philosophy of art, the motivation of art, the human motivation of art. And by this case, by this aspect of studying the history of art, I found in the history books some examples that I have never seen before, because in the history books, usually we just see the history of art in Europe and other parts of small city-states such as Egypt, and mainly that's it. Egypt, Rome, Greece, and then France, Germany, England, and then it goes to the United States. So for this aspect, when we went through and we went deeply into the general aspects of art and culture in the world, I was exposed to Islamic art. And by this first encounter, I was surprised to see that in history books and in art books, they had a small space for this new thing to me, that it was Islamic art. I was so amazed of how different it was and how strikingly beautiful it was in some sort of simple way. So by myself, I started investigating what was Islam. I have never heard before so many things about Islam. I've only heard 2 or 3 words, which were Muslim and maybe the Prophet Muhammad, but I had never before even heard much of Islam before. So this was the first encounter I had with the religion of Islam. And myself, I started investigating what was Islam, what was it based on. I found out that one of the principal cores of Islam is the Qur'an, and I started investigating what was the Qur'an, when was it brought, how or why was the primary aspect of Islam to use geometry. I was so amazed that the basic patterns or the basic structure of Islamic art is to use geometry. So I started investigating this, and it took me 1 year approximately to going back and forth, reading on the free time, reading on the daily aspects of morning, night, and day, to take more of this information. I then, by the process of asking and looking in the internet, I then went to a local community center of Islamic teachings, and they gave me a Quran in Spanish and in Arabic, but I never really started to read it right away. I felt like I was taking my time in investigating what was Islamic art. So, as I said, it took me a little bit of time to investigate what was Islamic art. And by this process, I want to highlight that in the internet, there is much wrong information, and there is much information that wants to lead away from people who are curious about what Islam is and to become a Muslim. So I would feel that this information, whether it was saying bad things about the Prophet, about Islam, about the religion itself, I would feel something wrong, and I would not take for granted, I would not take for sure. I would say to myself, there is something else, and I would just leave it, and then again, I would have questions. I would go through them, and then they would deny what I read about the bad things. So if I had a message to people who are investigating of Islam and who are taking their time to read, and if they come across something that says that Islam is bad or something bad about the Prophet, if you feel that you don't have to go through it, you don't have to believe it, you would feel something, and you would directly go and explain it to yourself, because Islam is so simple and is so clear that you don't need bad words to scare you away. It won't scare you away, and by this aspect I kept investigating. And then when I decided I wanted it to be a Muslim, because I appreciated everything I saw in its history, in its culture, and its art,